The next thing that we're going to talk about in your nutrition basics course is going to be meal prepping. This is so important. If you have any desire to eat healthy at all, you need to learn how to meal prep, meal plan, and all of those things. So I'm going to walk through how to do those things, and it's going to make such a big difference for your ability to actually execute your eating plan and your eating goals throughout the week. So we're going to talk about that, and it's going to make a big difference if you can really apply these things. So grab your handout if you have it, and then we'll get started. Meal prepping saves so much time and makes healthy eating as simple as it could possibly be. While there are a ton of ways to meal prep, here are a few popular methods. 1, batch cooking. You cook multiple batches of the same recipe and freeze some to eat later on. And this method is great if you typically are low on time during the week, which I feel like is probably most of us. So every time you make a good nutritious meal, just make sure you make a double batch at least. And then if you have extra, you can always freeze that extra portion and then you can have more later on in the week. The second method is individually pre-portioned meals. So you're gonna make meals early on in the week and you're going to divvy them up into beautiful little portion sizes. And this is going to help you to pre-plan how much macronutrients and micronutrients are in each one of your meals, and then they're gonna just go in the fridge. You're gonna grab them when you're ready to eat them, and then you're gonna walk out the door or sit down and partake. It's going to make a really big difference because you don't have to be looking at your app or tracking your food and trying to figure out on the fly what you're going to eat to meet your goals. It's going to be already pre-portioned for you. You're gonna have already calculated it. And that's how you're going to be able to just walk into the fridge and grab your food and then you're done. You don't even need to prep or anything like that. You've already got everything there for you that you need. And then the other thing, actually, my personal favorite is ready to use basics. This is a little bit harder because you need to make sure that you are able to choose really good basics because there could be really bad basics too. But if you can really find good basics to keep around the house that can help to make really well-rounded meals on the fly. So if you combine all these methods, you're going to succeed because you will have some pre-prepared in the freezer, ready for you when you are ready to eat them. You're going to have individually portioned meals that you can take on the go, and you're going to have ready-to-use basics that you're like, well, I already used up all of my to-go foods and all of my freezer foods, and now I have ready-to-use basics. So if you check out Julia's Super Simple Grocery Checklist, I have all of my ready-to-use basics that I keep on hand all the time, pretty much in that list. And then I pre-cook some of the meats so that I have them in advance, but I only cook them about 3 days ahead of time because that's about how long meat will stay fresh cooked in the freezer. Now, before you get started, you're gonna wanna make sure you have lots of food containers on hand. You will need airtight glass storage containers or mason jars. That could also work for like salads, mason jar salads, and some soups and that sort of thing. But airtight glass storage containers is a must. I buy mine from Costco because it's the best value you can find. But you can also do mason jars if you need to save some money. The last ditch option would definitely be like dollar store plastic containers, but really better if we avoid the plastics because the plastics do leach into your food and they can be hormone disrupting. So we don't want to do that if we can avoid it. The second step is going to be choosing your menu for a set period of time before you make your grocery list. So if I know what my grocery list is going to be because I know what meals I'm choosing and what ready-to-use basics I'm gonna have and what, extra double batches I'm gonna make for the week, it's really easy for me to actually use or create my grocery list. So the first thing that I usually do, practically speaking, is I go to my fridge, my freezers, and my pantry and I make a list, actually on a whiteboard on my fridge, but you could just use a notebook and pen or your phone or whatever, and make a list, take inventory of what you already have. That's probably the most underappreciated step, because you might have a lot of things on hand that you totally forgot about. So a lot of us have really big pantries, multiple freezers, and it's really important that we take inventory before we go out and shop, because that's going to save us a lot of money in the long run. So definitely make sure that you're utilizing the things that you already have at home before you go out and add something to your grocery list, so you have like 7 versions of the same thing, so that you don't have 7 versions of the same thing. And then number 3, man, you need to make sure that you're shopping for ingredients. A lot of people get stuck in this idea of shopping for snacks and shopping for like foods. If you shop for ingredients because you're using your list, this will save you a lot of money and a lot of time. So I have a really high standard for the kinds of foods that I will eat and the kinds of foods that I buy, but I actually spend the same or less than the average family my size, because I primarily shop for ingredients and I don't buy prepackaged foods, and I make everything at home. And I have just, high standards for what I will buy prepackaged, and then I just don't buy a lot of things prepackaged, because honestly my standards are so high, nothing really meets that. So that's really and I also am not willing to spend a lot of money on things that are non-essentials. So instead of thinking like, oh, I gotta find a healthy substitute for my crackers and a healthy substitute for my chips, and like I just don't buy those things. And I like cook rice and I cook quinoa and I have pre-cooked meats and my vegetables, and it's just really basic. And the things that I use to make it interesting are sauces and pickled foods and spices and stuff like that. And I do not eat bad food. I love the food that I make, but if you know how to prep it properly and you actually are able to prepare these things in advance, it's going to be delicious. It's going to be great, and you're going to love it. And then you're also going to be eating in accordance with your goals instead of just in accordance with your feelings. So that's going to be super important, to make sure that you're not trying to eat in accordance with how you feel. You're going to eat in accordance with what your goals are. You're going to ask yourself before you eat anything or before you make a decision, when you're preparing for this week of grocery shopping, does this fit my goals? Does this fit my goals? Does this help me reach my goals? Does this make me more of the person I want to be? And if the answer is no, then you don't do it. If the answer is yes, then you can do it. Now, if you are new to meal prep at first, you're going to want to lean toward keeping things more simple. If you do a lot of elaborate things, it's going to make it a lot harder for you to actually be able to execute it, because you're going to get overwhelmed and it's just going to feel like too much. Now, there's going to be exceptions that if you feel like you can handle it, by all means, get fancy. But if you keep it simple to like a tray of roasted veggies, 2 meats, and 1 grain, and then you divvy that up for the next 3 days, and then you do it one more time on Wednesday, you're going to have so much more success than if you're trying to just go crazy and do really fancy foods and substitute everything out. And eventually you'll get there, and that'll be really fun. But when you're trying to make huge life changes, making fewer changes right now is going to make a really big difference for the long run. I don't want you to get overwhelmed. I want you to feel like this is sustainable. And that's one of the things I tell my clients all the time. I want you to feel like this is sustainable, and that's how you're going to make that happen. Now, also, make sure that you have fun with it. So if you're dreading going in and meal prepping, you're probably a lot less likely to do it. Now, if you're dreading it, I want you to do it anyway, because you can take that bad feeling in with you and just do the thing that you don't want to do. And that's part of learning how to live healthy. But you can do so many things to make exercise and meal prep super fun. So if you want meal prep to be more enjoyable, you can consider, watching a show. My husband does that. I feel like I get distracted if I'm doing that, so I don't do that, but you might be able to. But I also love to like listen to podcasts, or I always have a running list of like audiobooks that I'm wanting to listen to, or maybe listening to Christmas music, or whatever music I love at the time, and just making it enjoyable while I'm prepping makes a big difference for my desire to go and do it, because cooking in and of itself isn't necessarily something that I find particularly rewarding, but I do it because it is what I need to do, and the way that I feel that it's rewarding is really when I get to accomplish something that's on my list, or do something or learn something that I'm really been wanting to learn or do. And that's how I really feel like it's rewarding and enjoyable, is when I do something that I've been wanting to do, listen to a podcast I love, or an audiobook, or music that I've been wanting to listen to for a while. Or maybe even calling a friend. Sometimes when I'm, meal prepping or cleaning up my kitchen, I'll call a friend and we'll just catch up. And I find that a lot more enjoyable. So get yourself a good pair of AirPods or headphones and make sure that you are ready to enjoy your meal prep journey. The next thing that we're going to talk about is different meal prep details, what to make, and kind of different ideas for you, and meal prep hacks. So stay tuned, check out that next video, and like and follow along for more.